We here, man. Episode 2, Silent but Deadly Podcast. We here. Last week we had episode 1, straight off the cuff, straight off the dome, out of nowhere, nothing planned. One take, straight off the head. And now we here, episode 2, one take, straight off the head. Today we're gonna be talking about. We're gonna split it up into 2 subjects. Today, the first thing we're gonna do is talk about what is Silent but Deadly. You know, it's a funny name. It's a name that I feel like it sticks. It's a name that came to me, that I made up, that I ain't take from nowhere. But it's a name that has meaning. And I think it's a good name for a podcast. Nobody else got the name. And I think when people hear the name, they're gonna be like, dang, what they talking about? What he talking about? So I guess I feel like I gotta answer the question of what is Silent but Deadly on the second episode of the podcast, just so there's no confusion. So I'm gonna do that, explain exactly what I feel, what Silent but Deadly means to me. And then the second part of the podcast, we're gonna do something that I may keep on the podcast for a while, which is gonna be a book review, or the book that I read that week, and I'm gonna talk about it, talk about my takeaways, talk about what I like, what I didn't like. And so this week, we're gonna talk about the book that took me months and months to read. I was reading it on and off. Stephen King, The Stand book. It was 1,154 pages. The second longest book I read, second to the Bible. But man, it was a super long book. I've been reading it ever since before the school year. I got it like 2-3 weeks before the school year started, so that was in August. Got the book in August. Just finished it yesterday at the beginning of November. Renewed it 2, 3, 4 times, but man, I'm glad to be finished. So that's that book right there, that big book. So we're gonna talk about that. So first, what is Silent but Deadly? So of course, Silent but Deadly, the first thing you might think of is a poop or a fart. And that's them farts that you don't hear them, but sheesh, them things deadly. Them things stink. But to me, so Silent but Deadly is a double entendre, I feel like. If you don't know what a double entendre, I think it is, I think a double entendre is just something that has 2 meanings. There's probably a better definition for that. But you can look that up, double entendre. So I feel like Silent but Deadly is a double entendre. When you hear it, you may think of a fart, but it has a deeper meaning. So first of all, when you hear it, it's gonna hook you. You'll be like, Silent but Deadly podcast, what they talking about? Like, what are you talking about, farts? Nah. So I feel like the hook, once you get the hook, then you get to be able to reel in what you really want to talk about. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like Silent but Deadly is just a lifestyle. It's just a way to live, a way to survive, a way to stay safe, a way to operate in this world. Because truly, I feel that the world, this generation, the social media generation, I feel like a lot of people is corny. And that's with all due respect to everybody, but I feel like in this world, if you're doing a lot of talking, then you probably doing too much talking, if that makes sense. Because a lot of the times, it's not a lot of people to talk to. Okay, I'm gonna talk about it like this from my point of view, because I can't talk for everybody. But in my point of view, talking to people, most people is fruitless. Most people don't have anything to talk about. Most people want to talk about, let's name what most people talk about. You walking around, say on a college campus or anywhere where the youth is, let's name what people are going to talk about. They're going to talk about social media, something they see on social media, so pop culture, social media, pop culture. They're going to talk about the opposite sex. They're going to talk about drugs, or something miscellaneous, like something going on in their life. They don't talk about the laundry they did, the dog they walked. They don't talk about how this girl would sneak this and they're gonna sneak this about another person. This goes for male and female, because in this generation, males, they want to be females so bad. They want to be females bad. And this doesn't have to do with Silent But Deadly, but we're going to go off topic for a little bit. Males, they want to be females bad. They got female tendencies. Men want to argue with females. They want to argue with males. They want to post on social media and get attention. Sheesh, they want to look, they want to get fly, dress like the females. They don't want to handle business. You know, they just want to live a life of leisure. And I feel like being a man is living a life of work. It's living a life of uncomfortability. I've heard quotes saying, if being a man was easy, everybody would do it. I've also heard quotes that said, a boy does what he wants to do, but a man does what he needs to do. And of course, nobody's gonna be perfect. Everybody falls short, especially in the beginning. Especially me. I'm on this journey trying to, I wouldn't say become a man, but just trying to become my best self, trying to work as hard as I can, trying to, you know, be the best person I can be. And I feel like in this generation, a lot of that's lost. In this generation, everybody just wants to have fun. Everybody wants to be on social media. They want to, you know, live a life of pleasure. They don't want to work. They don't want to build something from the ground up. They don't want to stay down till they come up. They just want that, you know, instant gratification. They want instant, for males, they want instant, we'll call it vagina. They want instant, they want girls. For females, they want attention. And I feel like that's the problem with social media. And that's the problem with the generation we live. So where Silent But Deadly comes in is, for me, I live in a generation where it's not really much to say. A lot of stuff is fruitless, but there's people that I know, and there's people that you come in contact with that you can talk to, and you can share a game, and you can spread information, and you can chop it up back and forth. Or if you're talking to people, and for me, if I'm talking to people older than me, you could keep it cordial, but for the most part, you can't really tell people what you know. Like most of the time in my head, when I'm talking to people, what I'm saying something, but I'm not really saying what I really feel. But when I say that, I'm not doing it to manipulate people. I'm doing it because if I say what I really think, people might get a certain preconceived notion about me. They might think I'm like crazy. They might not understand where I'm coming from, and that's okay. So when I say Silent But Deadly, what comes with that is modulating how you talk with different people. And this might be some deep stuff right now. I'm not really sure if this is gonna connect with my viewers right now. I really don't know who's watching this, but my boys, I put them on with the podcast and they're rocking with it. So I know they probably watching it, but I don't know if this makes sense, but I'm just gonna keep rolling, keep flowing. But everybody's not gonna understand where you're coming from once you get to a certain level in your thinking and in your maturity and in your mindset. So at the end of the day, you got nothing to prove. So when you're talking to people, you just gotta keep it G. You gotta keep it Silent But Deadly. And it's that simple. It's that simple. I feel like, well, I'll give an example, anecdotal story. So my dad, I ain't gonna put his business out there, but let's just say that he knows a lot, and in the beginning of having this knowledge that he had trouble saying too much, bridling his tongue. And this can get you in trouble because when you talk too much, let's say you're smart and you talk a lot about smart stuff, people can get jealous. They're gonna be like, dang, this dude's smart. They're gonna start to hate, and then they're gonna just sneak diss you. They're gonna take jabs at you. And because secretly they think they better than you. And right now, me on this podcast, people might be listening and be like, oh, who does dude think he is, consciously or subconsciously? But you know, it is what it is. It's my podcast, Silent But Deadly. We here, we ready, we going, we rolling. 10 minutes in, but so yeah, my dad, he struggled with bridling his tongue because he knew so much, and he's starting to learn. He's starting to learn that you can't say everything to everybody. Sometimes you gotta not say what you're really thinking, just because not everybody will understand, not everybody will take it the right way. And then the longer you live, the more mature you get, the more you start to understand who you can say certain things to, who you can try to help. and who you have to avoid. So that's one aspect of silent but deadly. Having information in your head, but knowing when to use it and when to not use it. Not everything has to be said to everyone at every time. Gotta be silent but deadly. So that's one aspect of silent but deadly, just what you think, what you say, what you don't say. That's the silent part. The but deadly part, okay, let's think about it for another angle. So first, number one, we got the speech angle. For number two, let's take it with the work angle. Being a man, okay, I'm not gonna say being a man, because I don't really think I didn't really make this to be a man podcast, but being a responsible person that has goals and ambitions, you have to put in a lot of work that people are not gonna see. And in this generation, people like to show everything. And I know this from experience, because when I used to be on social media, I distinctly remember in my brain, every time I saw something or I did something, I was like, man, I gotta post this. I gotta put this on my private story. I gotta put this on my main story on Snapchat. And I remember having that feeling, like every time, like you have a good meal, you have a good workout, you see something crazy, you had a good thought, anything, literally anything, you put on Snapchat, you put on a private story. And when I first was getting away from that, when I deleted my private story, I would have moments where I would want to post something. I'd be like, oh yeah, let me post this, but I don't even have a private story. I don't even have Snapchat, but it's just a subconscious process and that I was going through, where I was so used to posting stuff that excited me or made me mad or just stuff I wanted people to see. I was so used to trying to entertain my folks on my private story, just trying to make people laugh or get some attention, that it was a habit. It was a habit, trying to post something. Where was I going with this? Silent but deadly to work. Okay, so when you're working a lot, you might want to post it on Snapchat, but the silent but deadly aspect is that you got to put that work in when nobody knows, and nobody ever has to know. Only the real will know. If you know, you know. So when you silent but deadly, when you working and you around people, internally, you like, yeah, I've been working. I've been going crazy. And it's just a feeling you have inside that you don't have to let other people know. And it makes you happy internally. It builds your confidence, it builds your self-esteem, because you've been working. And that's silent but deadly now. So for me, let's say I've been working, I put in 3-4 hours of solid work. The whole day I'm putting in that work, I'm grinding, I had a good day. When I'm around other people, man, I feel good. I feel like I'm not even human. I feel like I'm a king amongst my people. Not on like an ego trip type thing, but just you feel good. And there's no problem with feeling good, because we live in a generation, we live in a culture where feeling bad is the new good. Everybody want to have anxiety, everybody want to have depression, everybody want to be soft, everybody, you know what I mean? So feeling good is, why wouldn't you want to feel good? I feel like people nowadays, they relish in their sorrow and they relish in their self-pity. And me, like, no, I'm not trying to be depressed. I'm not trying to have anxiety. I'm not trying to be sad. I'm trying to be happy. I'm trying to feel good. I apologize for sniffing. I'm not sick, but, I'm not going to go into that, but I apologize for that. But, like me, I just came off of a run. Before this podcast, I went for a run, because I was like, yeah, I'm about to make this podcast. I got to come correct. And when you run, you get them endorphins. You get them chemicals that make you feel good. They get you rolling. So I just came off a run, and now I'm rolling. I'm flowing 15 minutes into the podcast, and we silent but deadly. So like I said, take somebody who's been working and they don't show nobody. They don't post it. They don't have nobody with them. And they're getting deadly. They're training, they're working, they're getting deadly. They don't gotta show nobody, versus a person who worked for an hour, post what they just did, go hang out with their friends, work some more, post some more. and you're just giving away. You're just giving everything away. You're giving all this internal stuff you're doing, you're just giving it away, and you're not really storing it. So for me, in my case, if I was to show everybody all my work and everything I was doing, at the end of the day, it's not the same. I can't really, at this moment, I can't really explain to you why it's not the same, but it just feels different when you putting in work in the shadows and you get around other people and they're like, why are you so happy? Why are you so energetic? Because I just went through the storm. I was just working. I was just grinding. I was just training. So when I'm around other people, man, it's all love. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. Versus if, let's say I was working for real, but I was posting it, I probably still feel good, but I wouldn't feel silent but deadly. I wouldn't feel silent but deadly because I wasn't silent. So for me, I don't think silent but deadly is a life everybody has to live, because like I said in the first one, I'm somebody that somebody would call an introvert. But for me, when I'm putting in that work, silent but deadly, man. Silent but deadly. So that's the aspect of silent but deadly. We got first, the way you speak, the way you work, silent but deadly. Number 2, that's 2 aspects of silent but deadly. And number 3, we're gonna just say the way you handle yourself, the way you move. You can't be phased. You can't be emotional. You can't let people get you out your element. You can't let people manipulate you. You gotta control your own life, control your own emotions, your own feelings, your own path, your own everything, basically. A lot of people, they will go crazy if you call them out their name. You call them something, or you just say anything crazy to them. You could literally like make them flip. You see people on the internet all the time that's in Walmart or whatever, and they get a prank played on them and they just flip. They go crazy. Now, if somebody can influence your actions and the way you move and the way you handle yourself in life just based off something they say and they don't even know you, that's not silent but deadly, and that's not smart at all. That's not smart at all. Imagine you have a gun and somebody just calls you out your name and you shoot them and kill them and go to jail for life, and they don't even know you. They call you a B word and they don't even know you, and you kill them and you go to jail for the rest of your life just because somebody that didn't know called you a name. Think about that. Somebody that don't know you called you a B word and you decide to kill them, and you go to jail for the rest of your life. Now, this is where silent but deadly comes in. So me in that situation, if somebody called me anything right now, like it's anything, like I'm gonna keep going on with my day. I'm not even gonna say nothing back. I'm just gonna keep moving because they don't know me. Somebody that does know me say something, I'm gonna keep moving. You can't be emotional. You can't let other people dictate how you feel or dictate how you move. It's not smart, and it's not anything. It's fruitless. Why would you let somebody dictate how you feel? You gotta be unemotional. You gotta be silent but deadly. Another aspect of how you move being silent but deadly is just, I could be in a room with anybody. I don't really have to say anything, or I could say a lot. So it's just that's silent but deadly. We gonna move on from that, but I'm gonna recap silent but deadly. And this is all I just came up with all this off the cuff, but this is all true. Silent but deadly, how you speak, how you move, and how you work. That's what that means to me. Now, I'll probably flush out some more ideas in the future, but we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on to this Stephen King. Let me blow my nose real quick. It's unprofessional, but I ain't trying to have no snotty voice. Now this book took me so very long to read. Look how thick this book is. Let me show y'all something to compare. This book is 200 pages. This book right here. And look at this. So I know y'all are not gonna read this, so I'm gonna spoil it. I'm gonna just tell you all about it. And if you don't want it to be spoiled, then I suggest that you stop watching right now. Because after this, I'm gonna end the podcast. So if you would like to read the book or watch the movie, I've never seen the movie, but I think I'll watch it. If you like to see this, then I suggest you stop watching right now. Peace. I'll see you on the next episode. But for the people that just want to listen to it, I gotta say my takeaways and what happened in the book. The book started off with so I'll just say the book started off with a man. It started off with, in Texas, it was some people, 4 people just chilling, and then a car rolled up and almost like ran into the pump. Like the dude driving the car was jacked up, almost ran into the pump. The dudes in the gas station went off, turned the gas off real quick so the whole thing wouldn't explode. And so the car pulled over, and it was a dead wife and a dead kid, and a dude driving the car was sick, about to die. Now the first chapter was just the dude in the car. He was talking to his wife, and they were scrambling, trying to leave because he was on a military base and everybody was dying basically. And they didn't really say what was happening, but it was given the idea that like people was just getting wiped out left and right. So this dude was trying to escape basically. So he takes his wife, he takes his kid, and they pull up to this gas station where they meet one of the main characters that'll be in the book later on. Now I can't go into all the details about this book because I'll be here all day, so I need to stop being so in detail. But so basically it's a sickness. The book starts off with a sickness, and this sickness takes out 90% of the world. It takes out a large percentage of the population, especially in the United States. The book was written about characters in the United States, and so in the beginning of the book, we meet our characters before this sickness. We got a pregnant girl that's a youth named Fran, a dude from Texas who's also a main character named Stu, and these two eventually get married or whatever. It's a lot of characters. I'm not gonna go into all the characters. I'll be here all day. This book is super long, but let me just go into some takeaways and what happened in the book. So basically, people get wiped out, and the people that are left, the people that know each other, they link up and they find other people. But the thing is, everybody that's going to sleep, when they go to sleep, they're having dreams. They're either having dreams about a dark man. Most of them have dreams about dark man, where it's like a nightmare and it's always the same figure, just scary, doing something scary, and the dreams always play on some of your worst fears. So for the girl that's pregnant, the dark man always was chasing her around with a hanger, trying to get her baby, basically trying to kill her baby. So that was her nightmare. So the nightmares play on what the people is mostly scared of in their current situation. So the sickness comes and wipes out everybody. Not everybody, but the people that are left, they come together and they're just driving around the deserted country, and they're all having dreams. They either have a dream about the dark man, or they have dreams about an old black woman who is sitting on a porch like singing songs. So it's basically the dichotomy of good and evil. They're either having a nightmare or they're having a good dream. Now all the people there are scared of the nightmares, but the dream of the old woman, it comforts them and makes them feel love. So it's either good or evil. Now some people are more drawn to the evil, and some people are more drawn to the good. Some people only have dreams about the evil. Most people have both dreams. And so in these dreams, they're giving them directions to where to go. So eventually, all the people, some people go in Boulder, Colorado. They meet up with the old woman, who is the representation of good, or they go to the dark man, who's the representation of evil. So they're both. So in this population, where a lot of the country's been wiped out. A lot of the book is where people are trying to figure out how to get to either the evil man or the good, like holy Christian old woman. So first they find her in her home in Nebraska. She like draws them, and they eventually go to Boulder, Colorado, but the evil man is in Las Vegas, Nevada, Sin City. So eventually they start two communities, one in Boulder, Colorado, one in Nevada, and there's different characters that play different roles in each community. So for example, in the good community in Boulder, Colorado, there was two people that had contact with the dark man. So they were basically his spies, his eyes and ears, and they was like conniving on the good people. But so the good side, so the dark man had people inside the good side, but at the same time, the good side was sending spies to the dark man, and a lot of them were dying. They sent 3 at first, and the first 2 died, and the last one survived. And I hope I'm doing this justice because there's so many details, and I didn't really realize how many details it would be. But basically, in the end, one of the servants of the dark man, who was like a crazy arsonist, like special, like I wouldn't say retarded, but he's just like a crazy dude. He was an arsonist. He brought a atomic bomb to the dark man as a gift, or as a token of, he called it atonement or a redemption, because he actually blew up some of the planes that was on the dark man side, just because he's crazy and he likes chaos and arsony and explosions. So his idea was to bring an atomic bomb back to the dark man for him to use against the good people, and it just blew up. It blew up, and it killed the spies that were sent, and it killed all the people. It was an atomic bomb. It killed all the people on the dark man side. But somehow the dark man survived. I don't know how. He's not a real person. He's like devil. But yeah, I don't know if that was a good explanation of the book, but you guys should watch the movie, or I know nobody's gonna read this long book, but it was a good book. My takeaways were, 1, what would you do if the whole world if everything hit the fan and everybody was dying back to back? What would you do? That's 1. What would I do? Number 2, I feel like that's the most important thing. Just thinking about what would happen. Like, we live in a world where people think that it's all roses and rainbows, and they think everything is sweet. And I would use the example of, I can use the example of the coronavirus, where everything was flipped on its head, and people were freaking out about I'm gonna say this. People were freaking out basically about a disease that wasn't even really killing people, and it wasn't really that important. But this disease was really wiping folks out, and the world really turned on its head. And I think about what would happen right now if something really were to go down, how people would react, and people would not be ready. People will most definitely not be ready. But overall, this was a good book. It was, I don't regret reading it, but it was super long. It took me a long time to read. It was a good read. Long book. Yeah, most certainly. So next week I'll have a different book, probably be nonfiction to talk about, and hopefully I can have a better review, a better description or whatever than what I just gave y'all. But man, it was a decent book. It was a decent book, and the ending was not all the way there, in my opinion. It was more like a philosophy type question, because in the end, in the end, they were talking about how the civilization on the good side, which is now the only civilization that talked about in the book because the dark side was exploded. They talked about how the civilization was starting to have a lot of people there, and so the police force was trying to have weapons. They were trying to have weapons, and so some of the two main characters were having a conversation talking about if this is a good thing or if it's a bad thing, if people are just gonna go back to the way life was before everybody died, or because they wanted to make a new type of civilization that was rid of the old problems. That was an old civilization. So I'll go ahead and read the last page or something that's important. He said, okay, so Peter is their son. He said, looking down at Peter, he thought, maybe if we tell him what happened, he'll tell his own children, warn them. Dear children, the toys are death. They're flash burns and radiation sickness and black choke and plague. These toys are dangerous. The devils in men's brains guided the hands of God when they were made. Don't play with these toys, dear children. Please, not ever. Not ever again. Please. Please learn a lesson. Let the empty world be your copybook. Franny, he said, and turned around so he could look into her eyes. What, Stuart? Do you think people will ever learn anything? She opened her mouth to speak, hesitated, fell silent. The kerosene lamp flickered. Her eyes seemed very blue. I don't know, she said at last. She seemed unpleasant with her answer. She struggled to say something more, to illuminate her first response, and could only say it again. I don't know. And that's how the book ended. We went through a whole 1,100 pages of people trying to survive and get to different places and stay alive and spy and survive. And I didn't even tell y'all about this dude. He blew. We didn't even get to it. Just watch the movie. I'm gonna watch the movie and say if it was as good as, not as good as the book, but if it did the book justice. So I've been talking for 30 minutes, podcast for 30 minutes. I think that's a good podcast. Next week, hopefully I have a better book, something nonfiction, and I can actually bring you guys some stuff, some value, some knowledge. But this is the book that I've been reading, and it's the book that I wanted to review. For nonfiction books, I give it I haven't read a fiction book. I haven't read too many fiction books, but I'll give this one a 7, solid 7. So thank y'all for watching the Silent But Deadly podcast. I'll be back next week for a special edition of the Silent But Deadly podcast. I believe I have my first guest, and we'll see how it goes from there. So thank y'all for watching. See y'all next week. Stay tuned. Let's go.